I'd like to start just by asking our panelists if you can share just a bit about your personal journey, the challenges you faced before, during, or after incarceration, maybe even how those perspectives may have shifted.
How you doing, everybody? Good evening. My name is Andrew Whiting. I'm with the Lead Fellowship. And my journey of incarceration, of course, it was rough. Being away from my family, being confined. And during my incarceration, one of the things that I had to deal with that was hard for me was dealing with rules and regulations. Because when I was free, I was doing everything that I wanted to do, moving how I wanted to move. And when I got confined, dealing with rules and regulations was a difficult task for me. And after my incarceration, when I was incarcerated, they taught me structure. So I took that structure that they taught me when I was incarcerated and used that as me being home now, and it's helping me to cope with a lot of things that I'm dealing with out here, being away for so long and coming home. It was a rough road, but now I'm dealing with it and coping with it in my way.
Hi, I'm Chasity Carver, and I'm from the Lead Fellowship. And what I went through was, what it looked like before me getting incarcerated. I was working every day. I was living a normal life, and out of nowhere, my mental health went bad. They say at 24, your brain fully develops, and mine developed to mental health. And I got incarcerated because I just gave up on my mental health. Like, my mom was trying to send me to the hospital, I wouldn't go. I was just doing everything but what I was supposed to do. So when I gave up, I got incarcerated for 5 years, and I felt like I learned nothing from it. I just felt dehumanized. It felt like sleeping in a room where you had to eat, sleep, and use the bathroom was horrible. It was just the worst thing. It felt like I was living in hell. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Eileen Richardson, also with the Lead Fellowship out of Eastern State Penitentiary. Thank you guys for having us today. So my journey has a lot to do with, I have a lot of substance abuse in my past. My incarceration, this previous incarceration was directly related to that. And what I realized while being in there as someone who really wanted to be able to treat my substance abuse was there was really nothing that was done, to help me while I was in there. And I was put on a unit that was supposed to be for a drug substance abuse unit, which they actually ended up shutting down while I was in the unit because every single person tested positive for something when they drug tested us. So it was really not conducive to anything. Immediately upon my release, I relapsed for a couple days until I was able to get myself into an actual treatment facility. And I've been doing well since then, but I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit more. There's a lot of barriers you face getting out. That's been the toughest thing. They changed the law saying they can't give you a background check before you're hired. So now they just hire you and then do the background check immediately, and then you don't get the job. So, there's a lot of leaps and hurdles getting out, to get reacclimated back into society. So hopefully we can start making some changes to that. Thank you.
Hey, y'all doing? My name is Mumin Slaughter. I'm nervous, but I'm going to tell you what's going on. Before I became incarcerated or forced into prison, because I'm exonerated, I came from a typical single family home that y'all all probably know about or read about. Due to that and lack thereof in my home, this caused me, due to circumstances and environment, I went to the streets. Even though I wanted to go to college and things and such, I ended up dropping out the 9th grade and went to the streets. After a while, I had 2 children. Then I realized I needed to make a transition. Although I was willing to make a transition, I didn't know how to make that transition. So someone helped me and helped me go into a father-son program. So I left the streets and I went to a father-son program and try to get my education and also get a trade. It wasn't until one day I came home from school and I was grabbed by cops, and next thing I know I was doing 20 years. While I was in there, people don't understand when you're incarcerated, it's either going to be a fool's playground or Wise Man University. I chose to make it my university so I could self-educate myself. I went on and got my GED, and I went on to get trades, and I went on and try to help others who was going through, as Chasity said, mental impairments due to being in there, not knowing how to function. 20 years later, I got exonerated. Transitioning back to the streets was hard because I didn't have no real experience, so it was hard for me to get a job. I was having problems getting acclimated back into society. It wasn't until I met Jerome from the fellowship that gave me the equal opportunity chance. And now I'm sitting here in front of you guys talking about my journey. I also have been hired by a company called Peristar for me to be a CPS worker to help those who dealing with trying to get acclimated to society. And I also have another job, opportunity to work with another organization called PAN, which help out try to stop the violence and things and stuff on the street. So things was hard at first, but it's starting to get better.
How you doing? My name is Bernadette White. I was incarcerated, but let me say that my life had took a traumatic turn. To me, they sit here and say that jail is supposed to reform you, but from my personal opinion, because I've been in and out quite a few times, from my personal opinion, you have to be willing to reform yourself. Jail is not necessarily there to reform you, okay? I have 5 children. I'm taking care of my children. I'm just happy to be home.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Riggins. I'm also part of the Lead Fellowship. Just a little bit about my life before incarceration. My life was dominated by a lot of crime and a lot of drugs. During my 7.5-year incarceration, I learned a lot about the ineffectiveness of the carceral state. PIC, Prison Industrial Complex. And notice I said industrial because it's big business. It does more harm than good. Families get interrupted, overcrowdedness, environmental health issues, infrastructural issues, ineffective grievance systems due to too much nepotism on the ground, like illegal retaliation runs rampant. It's alarming and it's dangerous when you have too much nepotism going on in one environment and it makes the grievance system ineffective, therefore creating an environment that could be dangerous.
My name is Jerome Loach, and I have served over 42 years in prison. During my incarceration, I got the chance to meet certain individuals who kind of changed my perspective and how I view the world. And it allowed me to want to do more and give more to those individuals who have been placed in a situation but never given an opportunity. Eastern State allowed me that opportunity to create a program called the Lead Fellowship. And I have been given the opportunity to go back into the prison system, a system in which I have served over 10 years in solitary confinement. Okay? And disregarding all that, I put my differences to the side and went back into the prison to help recruit young men and women returning home, to give them an experience that a lot of us wouldn't have. Because you have to understand, some of you all here, y'all been to museums and things of that nature. Y'all travel. A lot of these men and women that's in this program never been inside a museum before. Don't really understand what that concept is all about. And so I wanted to try to give them a different experience, take them out of their comfort zone, okay, and show them something different. And so far it's been successful. I could talk more about that, but I'm gonna turn it over to Cyndi here.
I think our next question really speaks to Ms. Erica, what we were talking about, highlighting that prison industrial complex. And that might not be a term that folks know is what we use on State Road, is the Pennsylvania Prison Industrial Complex. Our correctional system labels folks, and sometimes it's literally with the word inmate on the back of your issued clothes. It's with a Scantron on your wrist. Your name is replaced by a number. And while all of these are security measures, because you want to track who is where, right? Head counts, you're constantly counted, right? You're brought out a couple times a day and you're counted. While these actions are framed as security measures and tools for population management, they serve to really dehumanize the people who are inside of that correctional facility. And I'd like to ask you all, or whoever feels as if they'd like to respond, to speak to the impact of that dehumanization, both while you're inside and then when you're returning out into the community.
I just wrote down some notes from what I experienced, and I can say that it is a very dehumanizing system. It does more harm than good. Blatant disregard for people's humanity. A lot of wrong, twisted, downright wicked things done in the name of security, right? And when they have you, they take you from, let's say, Philadelphia, because I'm a Philadelphian, I've lived here all my life, and they put you in a wild place, area where you've never been before, and it's like a culture shock. And so, I'm just so grateful that because I had a belief in a higher power that I wasn't able to be damaged too much from that system. But it can get really wicked and twisted up in there under the guise of security.
I'll give you a couple of experiences that I did have in there. You know, I remember quite a few of them vividly. You know, so you can't leave you. But I remember, you know, I was working a job in there. I was working inside the kitchen. And for y'all don't know, you get paid 30 cents an hour. You know, although you get paid 30 cents an hour, your hygiene, your cable is the same cost the same as yours. Just want to let you know that. Well, not exactly the same with the cable, but about $20 a month. But your hygiene and food, yeah, same as you guys. Same thing, cost the same. But I remember working in the kitchen, and I remember one of the supervisors, he came to me. He said, "Hey, go jump around that cooler." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Go jump around in the cooler." I said, "What, you trying to punish me or something?" He said, "No, just do what I said." I looked at him and I looked at a few of them that niggas jumping around inside of the freezer cooler. I said, "No." He said, "Go get me out of here, go back to the bottom." And he woke me up. Why? Because I wouldn't jump around in the cooler. This is a true story. I remember walking down a walk, because as we was just talking, they want you to be kind of like, you know, military guy, wise. And I guess a piece of my shirt was hanging out. So a guard said, "Hey, D-head." I kept going, but he called out again, "Hey, D-Gil." I said, "What?" "Tuck your shirt in while I make sure you never go home to your family." That's what he told me. And me, I looked at him, and I'm a thinker. I smiled, and I tucked my shirt in, because he didn't know I was sitting there doing 30 years. And early in my sentence. This is just some of the things due to, as she said, dehumanizing, because you're a number, because you know, an inmate. You don't really have any rights. Rather, you right in a situation, they still punish you. Why? Because they can. Even to me, one more thing, and you guys can check it out. Working in the kitchen, being a cook. Our food say only for inmate consumption. Animals or inmates. Meaning it's not for first-class citizens.
I'm just gonna, you know, speak to this a little bit, but, you know, the process starts as soon as you get into intake. You know, as soon as you get into intake, you're made to strip off every belonging you have, take your piercings out. They will take them out for you. If you tell them they don't come out, they will cut them out. You know, they're doing cavity checks. You know, they want you to get in the shower. You know, and it starts there. And like you're given a number. You know, you're given a number before you even get to where you're going. Your number is ready when you get there. And it's been almost a year since I've been out, and I can't forget it. Like I don't remember any of my old phone numbers that I grew up with. I can barely remember some of my addresses, but I remember 1225625. You know, I can't forget it. And the dehumanization, it becomes more than, you know, these overt things like giving you a number, labeling you an inmate. It's these little subtle things, like the way the COs will look at you, you know, or the way, you know, like you're banging on your cell while you're locked in because the inmate in the cell next to you is having a seizure, and they just walk by like you don't even exist, you know. Or the fact that, you know, there's not enough trays that come up to the unit, so you just don't get to eat. Or you have to eat a cold sandwich. Like, it's little things like this that you deal with day in and day out. Like Erica spoke of the grievance process. Putting a grievance in, nothing happens. You put a medical slip in to see the doctor. A month later, maybe you get to see him. You know? There's no counseling. They say they have counselors. There's nobody to talk to about it. There's nobody that you go get to see once a week to like talk about your mental health. There's none of that. You just gotta sit with it. And it's up to you to do something with it, but not everybody's given the resources. We don't get to go to a library, like a big library and just check out books. There's some, like, you might come across some of the books you wanna read, but it's hard, you know? And then once you get out, this is your mentality, right? Because this is what you've been dealing with on a daily basis for however long. And then you're thrown to the wolves, you know? You're thrown onto the streets and they tell you, if you don't get a job, you're going right back to jail. If you don't do this, if your address isn't acceptable to us, you're going back to jail. If you make one mistake, you're going back to jail. And that mistake just has to be contact with the police. It doesn't even have to be you getting in trouble and you're going back to jail. So you come out with this mentality that you're worthless. And then they tell you that you gotta do all these things to become not worthless anymore, you know? And that's what keeps this cycle going. It gets a vicious cycle. If you can't get everything done right away, screw it. You wanna screw it again and just go back to whatever it is you were doing before you got locked up. So, yeah, it's pretty rough.
I would suggest that everyone is affected by our carceral system. Some folks are affected directly because they're inside of it, but we all are as members of society. Yet it remains an issue that is out of sight, out of mind, right? The Philadelphia Industrial Complex, just talking about here in Philadelphia, you probably have no idea where it is in State Road, right? It's very purposely outside of the city, right? It's not in our face in the way other things like our school systems are, our economic resources are, institutions of higher education. So my question to you then is, how is this carceral system, how has your experience with this system affected your relationship with your community? And you really talked about that. And what steps do you think need to be taken to bridge that gap?
Well, it affected me a lot because I have two sisters and a mom, and I felt like our relationship just stopped growing. We used to be so close, and they're from Williamsport, I'm from Williamsport, and I'm all the way out here in Philly. And I don't feel like no one checked on me regularly or cares how they used to care. I felt like they just gave up because they were just tired of dealing with me. When I returned back to the community, because before I came to Philadelphia, I was living in Williamsport. And when I would walk in the store, everybody knows your charges. They painted me out to be a monster. They made it way worse than it actually was. And when I would go into the stores, like I would notice certain girls that I went to high school, they would grab their kid or grab their man or like try to go a different way because I guess they was scared of me. I don't know why, but I felt like I was just the same old Chaz. I just had a downfall. And I think the community can help out a lot because both can help out a lot, like offering housing, better jobs for women, because me personally, I'm not a handy woman. I can't go do welding or something like that, but I can work in the office. And I feel like they need to have more for the women.
I can piggyback off of what Chasity said. Again, my name's Andrew. Being incarcerated and being away from your family, that bond that y'all once did have, it does deter due to the fact of you away and you hours away. When I got to my own jail, at SCI Mercer, and the counselor asked for my address, and I told him my address. He said, "Why the F are you here? Who did you piss off? Why did they send you all the way over here?" I was between Ohio and Pittsburgh. Called home, told my folks where I was at, and they was like, "Oh son, we ain't coming all the way up there. Like, we'll video visit you, we'll write you, but we ain't coming all the way up there." Like, my sons didn't see him till I was, probably like 6 years in my sentence when they came out with the video visit. So it's like, it's a deterrence, man, being away from your family, and they paint you out to be a monster, like Chasity said. And it's like, it's all bad. Like, I haven't even been back to my community since I've been home. I want better. I want to do better. And it's just like, they paint us out to be so bad. It's messed up.
My name is Bernadette again, and I would like to just piggyback off of Chasity and Andrew. My community, like, it was kind of hard. A lot of people had stopped speaking to me. My family, a lot of people in my family had stopped speaking to me. My family's friends, they had stopped speaking to them. So it was kind of hard in the community. I feel as though, like, me being home, I'm getting support now, but when I was away, I didn't get the support that I needed. My family didn't come see me. You know, it was like the bond was broken. You know, they was like, well, they didn't even write me. So that was kind of hard to deal with, or whatever. I had video visits from my son, which is handicapped and has cerebral palsy. But it was kind of hard as far as my family. You know, I guess it was hard on them to see me in there. They didn't want to see me in there, and they didn't want to travel up all the way that far either, or whatever. But I feel as though, like, it could be a lot of things offered to us, like housing. I feel as though, you know, they can kind of help us get back into society. Coming home from prison, you don't really know too much. You don't really know your way around. I forgot my way around. I've been incarcerated basically since I was 2003. Since it was 2003, excuse me. But I had forgot my way around. I had to ask questions, you know. Every day I'm still asking questions. I don't even know how to work a phone that good. My son knows how to work a phone better than I do. But I feel as though they could offer a lot more programs, kind of help us get back into society, kind of help us with housing a little bit. I'm in a halfway house right now. I've been in there for like a year, and you know, thanks be to God, I have to go see friends tomorrow to see if I can get housing, but it's kind of hard for us to get housing or whatever. And they tell you if you don't be out there by a certain time, you'll end up getting locked back up. If you don't find a job by a certain time, you'll end up getting locked back up. It's just hard.
Our carceral system does not use a trauma-informed approach. It's also not dichotomous. There's not an offender and a victim. Oftentimes it's very fluid, and folks coming into jails are also victims. And when you mention your family, there is a collateral damage. There is an intergenerational collateral damage. Does anyone want to elaborate a little bit more on the effect on the family union?
Well, for me, I had to watch both of my sons grow through pictures. I left him when he was 3 going 4, 4 going 3. As she said, I can count on my hand how many times I've seen both of my sons. In fact, I had a nephew. Well, I have a nephew. That was my heart. I remember receiving pictures, and I'm looking at the pictures. And there was this one kid, I just couldn't figure out who this kid was. And it wasn't until 2 weeks later I realized that's my nephew. I just cried. And due to me being in prison, our oldest son, who was my heart, I take him everywhere. He ended up going to the juvenile system. He ended up going through quite a bit. Even they do that to the kids, the COs. I had family members die. As she said, a lot of your family members just stop talking to you. Why? Because they just become accustomed to you just not being there.
I got 3 sons. I went in, my oldest was 5, my middle was 4, my baby, he wasn't born yet. I was there, he was with me 24/7 all the time. He was always wanting to be with daddy. And like when I went away, it was for the second time. And when I came home the first time, they asked me, they said, "Dad, You promised me one thing. And I said, what's that? He said, promise me you'll never leave me again. And I looked at him. I said, and I'm thinking in my head, I said, man, I know where my head at, but I don't want to tell him that I can't make this promise to him. So I made the promise. Then I broke it. And when I came home, yeah, they're my kids and they love me. But I see the shift because I was gone for so long. And they see that I broke that promise.
When I left my children, they were little. When I came back home, they were teenagers. They were practically grown. It's kind of hard being away from your family. It kind of tears families apart. I had deaths in my family. I wasn't able to be there at the funerals. I lost a daughter. I lost a mother. It kind of tears families apart. The communities, they no longer look at you as a person. They look at you as somebody that's been in jail. They don't look at you as a person anymore. But I thank God that my kids came back into my life. I had 5 children. And like I said, I lost one. I wasn't able to be there at her funeral, me being stupid. Got myself arrested once again. Been in and out for the past 3 years. So can you imagine being incarcerated and losing a child? It's really hard.
But I want to speak to those who are dying in prison, right? And not being given a second chance, like given life without parole, right? You got people all over, just in Pennsylvania, I think we got 28 prisons, 26 prisons in the state of Pennsylvania. And you have people going in, some at the age of 20 in their 20s, and now they're 60, right? They're given life without parole, they're dying. I think Pennsylvania needs to do away with the old draconian law system, right? And come up with something, reimagine something more restorative. And also body cams for the correctional officers in those facilities, right? Because most of them, a lot of them do more harm than good.
What do you think is the most misrepresented or misunderstood aspect of our jails and prisons and people inside of those? And the second part, I think, is almost a call to action. What are the people in this room? How can they better support individuals that are both incarcerated or returning back to their community?
I think what's misunderstood is that those that's going into the carceral system is some form of re-education. It's totally designed for punishment, strictly punishment. You know, any re-education is self-re-education, and that is you taking the initiative on your own, okay? And that's the big misconception, that people think that, oh, they're in there, they're getting this education, they're doing this and they're doing that, and And it's not for everybody that's getting certain educational courses. You know, it's a selective few, and they're being handpicked. You know, the majority of the carceral system is designed for punishment. To what the sister said, that draconian system.
You know, not only is the system set up to hinder any kind of growth, I believe it's set up that way for a reason, you know, and this takes it back to the industry. It is not gonna be set up for us to be able to succeed outside of those walls, because they won't exist anymore to make money for the state if we don't keep going back. There's a reason the recidivism rate hasn't changed. There's a reason that we're not adopting the same policies that prisons in Europe use, where their recidivism rates are like 20%, you know, and they don't have any long-term sentences. They don't have solitary confinement. You know, there's an obvious reason, because it's big business, you know. And the fact that we have for-profit prisons, I mean, that's insane to me, you know, and that's the first thing that really needs to be done away with. But all prisons are for-profit prisons. All of them are. You know, whether they're run by the state or whether they're run by a company, you know, the commissary companies, big business, it's all big business, you know, and if we're not set up to go back into the prison once we're released, once they start getting us as teenagers and as kids and getting our names into the system and putting us on papers and putting bracelets on our ankles, you know, until they can get that hold on us and make sure that they are getting their yearly bonus every year, this prison system is not going to change, you know, and it's a human rights thing. You know, we're all, you know, we like to fight for human rights, for civil rights, right? But this is a whole population that's just being thrown off to the side, you know, because it's taboo. Because it's taboo for me to come out of jail and talk about that I just got out of jail unless I'm in an environment like this or like this. You know, I can't bring it up to my coworkers, you know, at a job. I can't bring it up at family functions when I'm meeting, you know, my spouse's family. I can't bring it up and do anything about it because it's taboo and it could mess me up even more. So we gotta figure out a way to break this cycle. And like you guys, you are the new generation coming up, you know. And you know, it's a little cliche, but the youth, the voice of the youth is important. It's very important, you know, because change starts with you, because youth are the ones that are gonna be in these offices, yous are the ones that are gonna be making these decisions in a few years, right? So, you know, knowledge is power. You know, knowledge is power, you know, that's what we gotta make changes because nothing changes. So.
A lot of y'all get involved with an organization, whether it be the Human Rights Coalition or a different organization, or as a matter of fact, why don't you do this? As young students, why don't y'all organize yourselves and start an organization under Drexel? You know what I mean? Under Drexel, a call to action to be activists in the carceral system. How about that call to action? You ain't got to worry about nobody. Y'all can do it yourselves.